Welcome to today's edition of Mental Health Matters. Today we're going to be talking about grief and homelessness. I have Sharon Spots here from Roseville West Services who's going to talk about her definition of what homelessness is and talk a little bit about her personal story. We got a great show in store for you guys today, so stay tuned. Sharon, thank you
Jesse.
so much for taking the time out on a Saturday for being a guest on our show. For me, Saturdays are my sleep-ins. It's staying up late at night and sleeping in, so thank you.
So are you telling me if I hear snores, give you a kick?
Yeah, you guys just give me a quick
Okay.
soft kick.
Thank you for having me on the show, Jesse.
Yeah.
It's fun to be back with you again.
Yes,
doing the show.
You're regular here, and so you
Yes,
kind of know how things work.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we start by you kind of introducing yourself and just tell a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, my name is Sharon Spots. My company is Roseville West Services. I'm a certified senior advisor. I have a marketing background, but I came to this area to take care of my parents, and I gradually got into senior care. I met you through doing that. You and I worked together with the in-home care company, and then I became a geriatric care manager and placement agent.
Yes, yes.
And so,
as you was just saying, the thought came to my mind how, I've always thought that you was very, very intelligent. I do. Yesterday when we was talking back and forth, when you was texting or emailing, I didn't share this with you. I always tell people that I speak highly of you too. I always tell them that you have the gift of intellect. That is the way I describe
thank you.
Yes, very, very much so. That's how I see you, very much
well,
so.
that's interesting. When I was in high school, because I'm blonde and blue-eyed, and I liked to have a good time and giggle, I'll never forget if I got an A on a test, somebody would look and say, "How did you get an A?"
Yeah.
Or they would compare me to Goldie Hawn all the time. They thought I was a fluff head and a giggle head. So it's funny that you should say that. But thank you.
So that's
compliment.
my perception. Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
So just so you know. But what I was about to say is when you was talking about your background in marketing and now senior care, to me, I think you're kind of shifting a little bit to the homelessness.
Yes.
I can see that
I'm transitioning,
yeah,
yes. That's
exactly.
a passion of my heart.
That's exactly right. And people are going to understand why as we go on with this interview. So what is homelessness to you, Sharon? Your definition of homelessness.
Homeless, I think, it's encapsulated in the word homeless.
Yes, yeah.
You don't have a home.
Yeah.
But what I have found is that people who do not have the typical conventional home I think society's perception of a home is a permanent dwelling with an address attached. Mm-hmm. But I have seen people make homes in all kinds of places. I know some homeless people, their car is their home. Exactly. It is a home. They would rather be living out of their car than staying with friends.
Yeah.
And you see people make tents their homes in third world countries. They put up a few pieces of cardboard and it's a home.
Yeah.
But I think a home needs to have permanency. Yeah. So when you have homeless people who have their tent on a piece of earth and then they go off during the day to take care of the things they need to, and they come back and they find that the sheriff and the troops have gone through and bulldozed and
Yeah.
taken their tent and all their worldly possessions. That's a little bit harder for that to be a home because it
Exactly.
is so transient. So,
Exactly.
yes, so I think in this society, pretty much a home is anything with a permanent address, whether it be a house, an apartment, an RV
Yeah.
that's in an RV park with a space number,
Yeah.
something that has permanency
Yeah.
attached to it.
I like how you colored that, so to speak, because that is very much true. Here in our society, we do have to have a residence, an address, or something to be considered a home or somewhere to be permanent. But in fact, as you said, it could be somebody's tent in a park. That could actually be their home. That could be their sanctuary. That's where they feel most comfortable at. So I like that you kind of brought that out, so to speak. You know, I shared this and I kind of shared this with you too, but I'm gonna say it again now. You know, it is very unfortunate that a lot of homeless people get, you know, get the police called on them, and you know, they're what they consider a home it's kind of disturbed. You know, because I think people don't really understand people who are homeless.
They do not.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think people have a misunderstanding of the homeless population?
Jesse, you know me well enough to know, don't ever ask a question.
Yeah, well, let's
You
go.
really want
Let's
the
go.
answer. I have my opinions on
Yeah.
things. First and foremost, I think most people really don't understand the homeless situation.
Yeah,
And I think as a society as a whole, it seems like cultures have always needed somebody to be on the bottom rung so they can feel better than.
okay.
The Indians, East Indians, they have the untouchable caste. And now in this country, it's not politically correct to be better than and treat, you know, people of color and women and disabled and handicapped the way that they used to when I was growing up. They were always the bottom rung, you
Yeah.
know, make fun of them, treat them bad and whatnot. So there's not that, you know, I'm better than
Yeah.
you factor. So I think the homeless have kind of filled that. You know, there's somebody to be better than, and people do not understand homelessness. They do not understand why people are in that condition. They will say things like, why don't they just go out and get a job? Well, the fact is, most Americans are one paycheck away from homelessness.
Yeah.
And I will share myself during the recession, after working all these years since I was 14 years old and doing all the right things, saving money, investing, having IRA, blah, 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 blah. I had all my investments wiped out by the recession, you know, especially real estate investments. I lost my job due to the recession. We were all laid off. Then the year after the recession, in 2009, I was diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
And I was winding up taking care of my two parents who wound up being to the point they could not care for themselves. So any one of those things can drive a person into bankruptcy.
Yeah.
I had 4 of those things hit. Boom, 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 boom. And I honestly thought for a while I might be out there on the street too. Well, I'm faith-based, so I'm going, please God, I'm too old to be out there sleeping on the sidewalk, you know. And here I am, by the grace of God, I'm still in my house. But I know personally that it can really happen to anybody if you have some major catastrophes.
Yes, absolutely.
And homeless people have different factors. There's not one reason. You know, some people are out there, unfortunate circumstances like I had. Others have mental illness, and that is what is really sad. They have free agency.
Yeah.
They don't have to be treated if they don't want to.
Yeah.
And it's very sad. You know, there's a segment of the population that cannot take care of themselves. You have people from other countries that haven't. I think one of the saddest things is when I was with a church and we have the motorcycle ministry, and we get on the motorcycles and we're off to feed the homeless. We'd all pack those peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and little lunches, and they'd hear the motorcycles and run out, you know, and we give them lunches. But there was a Chinese couple, and they had to have been in their 60s, in a little tent sitting out on the sidewalk. And I thought, oh my gosh, how sad is this? Where's the umbrella for them?
Yeah.
You know, where's the umbrella for these folks? One of the, you know, the richest nation in the world, and we have this whole population of people that have fallen through the cracks.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I like how you brought the mental health piece in, because a large majority of the homeless population
have mental health issues.
Yeah.
They really do.
And because people don't really understand mental health, or there's a lack of education, people tend to, you know, mistreat them, in a sense, in my opinion.
Yes, they do. They make fun of them. They put them down, mistreat them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I know at one place of employment I worked, we parked around the back of the huge parking lot, and there were homeless people that would be maybe I'd say about one, two, maybe two. I'd probably say 2 or 3 at the most, but sometimes maybe 1 or 2 would just be, you know, there, not even really in nobody's way like that, you know. And sometimes they've been away, but not really in the way. And some of the staff members, they would just call the police, and I just see them being so angry. And so, you know, they didn't show compassion. They were just like, they need to move. And their whole goal was to call the police and complain to the building manager. And that always bothered me. I would go there because we were stationed next to a gas station, the building.
Right.
I would go over there and get chips or sandwiches and stuff, and I would always give it out. They never knew this, though. I never let them know that I was kind of feeding these people and stuff.
Yeah, and they weren't bothering anybody.
They weren't bothering anybody.
Yeah,
I mean, these people, they have their little tent, you know, their little belongings, and for some reason, it was like pouring coals of fire on their skin. It really bothered them, and I never understood why.
There just happens to be that something in human nature, kick them when they're down.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, punish them for having, you know, back in the old days in Dickens' time, in England, they had the debtor's prison. That never made sense to me.
Yeah.
You're in debt, so they're going to punish you for being in debt and throw you into prison. Well, how can you pay your debt? You know, that just never made sense. And it's the same principle.
Yeah.
You know, people tend to kick them if they're down.
Yeah.
And I think there again, it goes back to what makes me feel better about myself.
Exactly.
Or I'm going to punish you because you can't meet society's expectations of middle-class America.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so people tend to punish them.
Yeah.
But I do like what you said, and so true, about so many of the homeless having mental health issues. And there's a trilogy: mental health, alcoholism, and homelessness.
Yeah.
Usually, if you have one, you're kind of tied in to the other 3. And people do not understand that. Alcoholism is a disease.
Yes, it is.
Mental health is a disease.
Yeah.
Now, if you walk into your office and you have a cold and you're blowing your nose, am I going to come up and kick you or beat you up and punish you because you have a cold?
Yeah, exactly.
Then why are we doing that to this population who has serious diseases?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where is the compassion?
Yeah. Yeah.
As an evolved, civilized country.
Yeah, exactly.
That we would punish them rather than have the compassion and help. And I think when you asked me to do this show, one of the underlying messages that I want to give to viewers, I want to give them takeaways. And one is that people who are homeless, and I have been invited to speak to homeless people at the mission, and what I want to tell them is homelessness is a condition. It doesn't define you as a person.
Exactly.
You have brown hair, blue eyes. Homeless doesn't define you.
Yeah.
It's a condition, and it can be a transient one.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to value homeless people as people.
Exactly.
That is the most important gift you can give. Your chips and your sandwiches, that denotes that you value them, and it's important. But to look them in the eye when you see them and
I
not
like that.
turn the head
I
like you're
like that.
ashamed.
Yeah.
People are uncomfortable.
Uh-huh.
You know, they're uncomfortable. They don't know what to do. There are many compassionate people who aren't the mean ones, you know. They don't know what to do, so they're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Or they feel guilty because they're not doing something to help.
Yeah.
So they'll look away. But to look them in the eye and say good morning, you know, or just value them as a person might be that extra boost they need to get through that day.
Yeah, I like how you pointed that out too, because it reminds me, I think about sometimes when I'm driving and I come to a red light or something, and you see people with their signs of saying they're homeless, anything could help and things like that. I notice a lot of people, if I look to my right or to my left, I notice a lot of people would not look at them for the sake of not giving them money or for whatever other reason it may be. But I do feel that they would not look at people that is in this situation. But to me, it was always, I think one of the first things that I do, I have a lot of compassion. The second thing I do, okay, let me look and see if I got some change somewhere, whatever. And I literally do that, you know, because I want to give, I want to help and do what I can do. But I think some people, they just don't. They just stare straight to the front and they don't blink and they don't look to left and right. And then when the light turns green, they just go because that's something that they don't have to deal with.
And part of that is true. And when you mention that 30 minutes is going to go by fast on these topics, it is, because I can just really address this for 30 minutes. But you have to be careful on that, Jesse, and I will tell you why. There is a lot of begging scam. People will dress up as homeless and beg. My sister, I will tell you a true story. My sister lived in Santa Cruz, and she noticed where she worked that every day there was the same person, homeless person, and she kind of had her little territory there. And Debbie noticed that she kind of kept hours, you know, 9 to 6. So she followed her one day, and the woman walked a couple blocks, and then she ducked into some bushes. And she changed her clothes in the bushes. She had a suitcase there. And she took off the wig and the tattered clothes, and she had, you know, regular clothes underneath. And then she got out, and she walked down the block, and then she got into a Lexus and drove off.
Wow.
You know, a lot of people, and this goes back again, Dickens' time and even before. There were people who wrote about this. There are people that are excellent scammers, and they would dress the part and act the part as handicapped or disabled or homeless and beg. So you have to use discretion. That's why I'll never forget reading in Ann Landers. They said, if you want to help somebody that's out on the street, give them the address where the mission is, for instance. They can go to the mission. They can have a permanent address there so they can, you know, look for a job. They can get a meal. They can get a shower. They can get a bed. But there are guidelines. They have to behave appropriately. And, you know, they can't be bringing in drugs and dealing or doing whatever inappropriate behaviors against others. So that's a good way to help. Contribute to organizations that are buying supplies for homeless, that know how to really, truly help the homeless, because handing out money isn't always the best way.
I think for me in the situation, I think I get caught up in the moment.
Yes,
you know,
and that's
it's
what
just,
the professionals
and it's
count
sad
on.
because well, let me say that for those that fall into the category that you're describing, it's sad because it put a bad stamp on people who are actually homeless
that need the help.
That need the help.
Exactly.
And so it's like, how do you decipher? How do you discern who's what? And you know, so that's a good point. That is a good point to remember.
Yeah, steer them to the mission where they can get medical help, perhaps, or you know, get mental health services to the steer if they need mental health services or whatnot. They have more resources, and so if in doubt, just
Yeah.
You know, that's a good way to help. But I understand. I've been guilty of the
Yeah.
same thing, or seeing somebody sitting there looking really hungry. So I'll go in
Yes.
and buy a burrito or a taco or lunch and bring it out and give it to them because
Yeah.
I feel very guilty sitting there eating and this poor person has nothing. So
Yeah.
I understand that
Yeah.
emotion of the moment, and that's another way to handle it rather than just hand over money.
Yeah.
Hand them a meal.
Yeah, yeah, meal.
Take them
And
to
then maybe, and like you said,
get
have
something.
resources in the car, flyers and stuff, and
Exactly.
to pass out.
And I've done that, especially for
think that's what
kids.
I'll
When I
do.
see these young kids that are out there on the street,
Yeah.
they are prey,
Yeah, yeah,
you know, and so is somebody who's got severe mental health issues or physical disabilities. They are prey,
yeah, yeah,
you know, for aggressive sorts. And to hand them a flyer or give them a ride to a mission or something someplace where they can get the resources and the help in a safe and a compassionate and a caring environment. I
Yeah.
think that's very important.
yeah. I remember one day I saw a young guy out there. He had a sign up, and it wasn't funny, but it was funny. I laughed. I'll have to just be honest with you. And he had a sign up that said, "Not homeless, need money for marijuana." And that was funny to me
honest.
because he was
was
honest.
honest.
He was honest. He didn't try to lie. He didn't try to sugarcoat it. He's like, "Look, I'm not homeless. I just need some money for some marijuana." And I laughed at that. I just laughed at that, and it just cracked me up.
He
You know.
had moxie.
Yeah, yeah. He was very honest and transparent. So he didn't try to hide. You know,
Yeah.
to be deceptive. He
Yeah.
just like, this is what I need the money
And
for.
why not?
Yeah.
And you know there's going to be somebody out there
Yeah.
that's going to give it to him, or just hand him a bag of weed, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. If I was
Yeah.
in that lifestyle and that state, I probably did the same thing, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, but I sincerely recommend it for people who want to help connect with the mission or Loaves and Fishes or Salvation Army, where
we got him over there laughing and stuff. Oh, I love
okay.
it. So Sharon, do you know anyone personally that was homeless?
yes, and I personally know people who are homeless.
Yeah. A loved one, or did you ever have like a loved one that was homeless or anything like that?
Yes, my son, my youngest son, had his divorce in September of 2018, and he turned away any financial help from his working spouse. He was not working, and decided he's going to become homeless. It was a decision for him, and was living out of his car. And knowing him, I think part of that was a manipulative device to try to make his wife feel sorry for him and take him back. But
Yeah.
I think, too, you know, he didn't realize that during winter it's really going to be cold and a car can be uncomfortable. And, you know, he chose to be homeless.
Yeah.
And he didn't really have the skills to be an independent adult after the divorce for a lot of reasons. I won't go into all that. My
Yeah.
son had mental health problems.
Okay.
And he had substance abuse problems.
Okay.
So that's why I could bring up the homelessness, the alcoholism, mental health. Those are all very closely related. And I've seen that personally, and I've also seen it in work with the mental health programs that I do reviews for, you know, the state that you know about. And I would worry about Ian. I would have visions of him sitting all alone, how sad, in his car, you know, not getting proper nutrition, not, you know, having any friends. What was he doing on the holidays?
Yeah.
But free agency. If a person chooses, there's not really anything that you can do. So I prayed on him a lot and just hope for the best.
Yeah.
But he did not take care of himself. And he had a heart attack and died right after Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Wow.
So that kind of is what perked my interest.
Yeah.
But after he passed away, so many of his friends in Marina came forward to help me with the memorial. And I got to know them, Jesse, and I found out that my son had this whole other life down there with the homeless population and a church,
Yeah.
a Baptist church, one of the largest churches down there. He had
Nice.
this whole other life. And I was very proud of what he was doing with his life. And so this is why I know a little bit about what happens. I
Yeah.
know how the police are harassing and rousting them.
Yeah.
I know the depression, and I know how they're just treated by society at large. They're not treated and valued. And one lady who was my son's prayer partner and Bible study partner,
Yeah.
it's like an older sister to him, was actually a nurse, and she had health problems. And over time, and she had lived with her mom, taking care of her mom, but there were family dynamics and other things happened, and ultimately she wound up being out there. So homeless people are not all alcoholics or mentally ill or criminals,
Yeah.
whatever. There's so many stereotypes.
Yes.
But there are professionals out there. I
Yeah.
know when we were feeding the homeless with the motorcycle ministry, one fellow was an accountant. He just got fed up with the stress and the hassle. Well, he was young, so, sleeping on the cold sidewalk didn't bother him as much
Yeah.
as it would say me, but it's kind of a lark,
Yeah.
when you're younger. But no, he just didn't want that lifestyle that accompanies what society says you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You're supposed to have the 8 to 5 job and supposed to invest, and you're supposed to have all these stresses accompanied by, the boss that yells at you and the office dramas.
Yeah.
My son wasn't cut out for that. In the old days, he would have gone west,
Yeah.
know. So there are a lot of people that are homeless that just don't fit into the regular
Yeah.
8 to 5,
Yeah.
So
They're just like everybody is not cut out to go to school and get a college education.
exactly.
And
many of them are very brilliant.
exactly. That's
Yeah,
exactly right.
yeah.
How did your losing your son change your life in a positive way, in a good way? Like what sunshine did you get out of that particular situation?
And that's an interesting question, because I always said I had a lot of hardship in my life, and I survived a lot of things, which gave me the skills to be
Yeah.
able to cope with this. But I always said losing a child would be the one thing that would break me. But somehow I always felt within he might be the child that I would lose, and it came to pass. But it was one of the hardest things
Yeah.
I've ever been through. I went into an emotional coma for about 6 months.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of starting a little to come out of that
Yeah.
now. But you know me, I am not value oriented to things and money and status.
You're
I just not. And that just was cemented in me so much more. We all have an expiration date,
That's right.
Jesse. We're all going to die, and
Yes.
people tend to not think about that, And all those things people are striving to get, those things aren't going in the coffin with you.
Right. Yeah.
So that becomes really, really vivid. It did for me after Ian died. It just like, all this BS stuff doesn't matter. If somebody hurts my feelings, I don't care.
Yeah.
What's anybody going to do to me? I had cancer, I had bankruptcy, I had this, that. I didn't have the fear anymore.
Yeah.
Because I started paying
That's
attention
good.
to what do I believe happens
Yeah.
when you go into the afterlife. And
Yeah.
so that changed my life a lot. My perspective changed my life a lot about what I want to do with my remaining years.
That's
But
good.
I saw, in knowing the people that Ian knew and the church he belonged to, how he had lived his life. And I learned about him, and I learned that my son actually, because of his life and death, one minute they're out on the beach bringing all their food, sharing their potluck. The musicians are striking up the band, and they're loving life. And the next minute, Ian was gone. That affected a whole community of people. These people grieved.
Yeah.
He was just loved. He helped people. He inspired. He nurtured. He laughed with them. He cried with them. They grieved him.
Yeah.
And 9 people to date that I know of have become clean and sober.
Yeah. Wow. Nice.
And a couple of the kids got into programs to rehab, got jobs.
Yeah.
People are cleaning up their act. They're getting Bible studies and prayer groups going again because Ian was in one.
Yeah.
So I've seen lives changed, and that was the beautiful thing that came out of it. I saw my son's life mattered.
Yeah.
He was homeless.
Yeah.
When I got up at that memorial with all these family members that had called my son a bottom feeder, his own brother did,
Yeah.
and looked down on him because he was homeless, and they were all, how many degrees do you have? How much money do you make? And they're not bad people, but they reflect society at large.
Yeah.
I was very proud to get up there and say, I was proud of my son.
That's good.
And what he did with his life.
Yeah.
He was out there helping the disenfranchised
Yeah.
out there. My son had a good heart. He was a good person. Was he successful as far as society's standards? Perhaps not. I think he was very successful as a human being.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that changed my life tremendously. And that's why I want to say when I speak to the homeless at the mission, to reinforce to them, their life matters. I mean, my son was homeless. He was an alcoholic. He could be a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
He really could. I knew him.
Yeah.
I knew the good and I knew the bad, you know. But he had a heart for people.
Yes.
And he helped people. He made the world a better place with his life. So you can't say because somebody's homeless, they're worthless. Like, so much of society tends to treat them as worthless, that they have no value. They're draining our resources, our welfare. Our tax money has to go to them to provide shelters or this or that. Well, you never know what homeless person is going to really put it together and come back and do things for people. Maybe they're already doing things. Don't write them off. They're people. You know, we treat our animals well. You know, we take them to the animal shelter or whatnot. You know, I mean, we should treat our fellow human beings well and value them. Because I will tell you something, a lot of the homeless are so much more courageous than any of us have to be. And they're very street smart. You know, they really can find ways to survive where most middle-class Americans wouldn't last a day out there. It's tough. It's tough out there, but they find not only a way to survive, but to thrive. You know, and they have a whole community. They love each other. They support each other. You don't see that in neighborhoods. People don't know their neighbors, or it's just a smile and a nod. Not out there in the homeless communities. They're really there for each other and helping and nurturing and supporting. And they're loving life. You know, we don't have time to love life the way that a lot of the Beach Boys is, you know, they call themselves out there in Marina. The Beach Boys are loving life. So it's a different choice for many people. Doesn't mean it's a bad one, it's different.
Well, Sharon, we've run out of time. Thank
Already.
you so much. I know it goes quick. But thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I know this is going to touch a lot of people.
I hope so. I hope it gives people something to think about, Jesse.
And it will.
And it changes some attitudes. And
that's it for today's edition of Mental Health Matters. If you like this particular show, or if you would like a DVD copy of this particular show, or if you would like to be a guest on our show, please dial 916-366-4600. Thank you.